introducing policies which bring about a resolution to those challenges. Our shelves at one time, they were empty shelves. So we had to find out what to do in order that our people have food, they have the basic needs of life. And to do that again, it was painful. We had no currency. Our currency had collapsed years back. And there's no country that can develop and grow its economy on the basis of another country's currency. But to move away from that and create our own currency was very painful. So we had to have measures to deal with the financial service sector in order to reach where we wanted to reach. But to do so, we had to fight financial shocks in the financial service sector. And I'm happy to say, up to date, perhaps we are 40, maybe 50% in fighting those financial shocks. Fortunately, we are now wiser than we were at the beginning. We now know whom we are fighting and who is behind them. And this helps us bring about the correct instruments to deal with the financial service sector for it to serve this country, not to serve foreign interests. So all these things, as you do them, there's suffering, but there's light at the end of the day. And I think people are beginning to see things changing, the currency stabilizing. But the fight is still on.
You recently said Zimbabwe is past its worst. Are all these highlights, these positives that you speak about, part of what gives you the confidence to say we are past our worst?
Not only these. There are many things which a family would want, right? Basic thing is food. There's really nothing we can do with regard to food. We must address the issue that a Zimbabwean must have 3 meals. But if there's drought, they cannot have 3 meals. And the country is under sanctions. So you cannot be able to support the population on the basis of imports only. So how do you address the issue of continuous droughts? This is why we brought about the policy of irrigation and the construction of dams. Fortunately, we already have numerous water bodies in the country. So what we had to do was to make sure we promote irrigation in this country. We made an analysis to say if we have X amount of hectare under irrigation, whether there's drought or no drought, we shall have enough food in the country. And we are on that process. And I believe that in 3 years, according to our plans, we should reach that level where we have enough hectares under irrigation, which guarantees us food. So the question of food will be guaranteed. Secondly, fortunately this time around, the Lord has been merciful to this country with good rains, and we know that we are going to have a bumper harvest this year.
All right, and Pfumvudza has also been a game changer in the entire matrix.
Yes. Pfumvudza was not really very new. It was there. But when we made an analysis of Pfumvudza, we realized that here was a tool lying which we were not using, which would ameliorate the question of food supply to our people. And let his soul rest in eternal peace. Former Minister of Agriculture, Perez Shiri, we discussed and agreed that it is necessary to make sure we propagate and implement the Pfumvudza concept. Because that one, we are addressing the food question at the household level.
Oh, true.
At each household level, we have about 1.8 million households in the country. And if each household does produce for itself, we are almost 50% saving the issue, the problem of hunger in the country. And fortunately, when we implemented the Pfumvudza, again, with the grace of the Lord giving us good rains, and we have bumper harvest. But that concept will now continue. Actually, the way it is planned is such that the first plot must feed your family. The second plot is surplus. And you can do it. And in the past, we thought that it is still necessary that for agriculture, you need empowerment. So we have now been able to analyze it. We have the first category of farmer is the mechanized farmer. And we must empower him to be mechanized, to use the land to maximum productivity per hectare. Yes. The second farmer is the one who uses a donkey or cattle for power. He must be supported also to do so. The third category of farmer is the one who would say, we don't have cattle, we don't have donkeys, we don't have tractors. So they are desperate. This is the Pfumvudza which comes in. So as long as you have your feet, your hands, and your eyes, you can be a productive, prosperous farmer through Pfumvudza. So of the three categories, we have a solution for each. So going forward, we believe that with regard to the issue of agriculture and the food security in the country, we are on the correct path.
Great. Still on the economic path, Your Excellency, we projected that this year we intend to go on a 7.4 growth percentage. In view of the COVID happenings, in view of the third wave that is anticipated to be coming on board, and also in view of our vision 2030, are we still on track? Is it achievable?
Well, I'm sure you're aware that the last season we were -7, -8 in terms of GDP growth. Minus.
Yes.
But if you now go to +7, it means the economy has grown 14%. However, that figure remains constant if other things remain the same. But it is not possible for things to remain the same. So the projection is done taking into cognizance the current situation and the possible issues that may affect such projection. And we felt that could be what was achievable. But now, with the pandemic, which affects economic activity and so on, you cannot again stick to that. We have to revise. At one time, we thought the first wave of the pandemic was the end. But we now, the second, and there's projection for the third, perhaps the fourth, and so on. So things will continuously change depending on the concrete effects on the ground. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we are very sure that the economy, there's a rebound because we have corrected the fundamental issues which affect the economy. Have now, the macroeconomic factors, most of them are now correct, and we continue to address them. And making sure that as we move on, we carry everybody. For economy to succeed, you don't need the political government to be correct. You need everybody to share, contribute, and become the stakeholders of the vision.
Yes. We have a few, Your Excellency, whose hands are not on deck, those that are involved in corruption. Right from day one, when you assumed office, you spoke passionately against corruption, and you termed it even a war, and indeed it is a war. In this war, there have been battles. Have you won most of these battles?
No. What I can say, we must fight corruption. And this should not be a Mnangagwa crusade. This should not be a government crusade. It must be a crusade by the entire society of Zimbabwe. All subsectors of our society, subsectors of our economy must commit to fighting corruption. We as government must put legislation which assists in fighting corruption. To date, I see that we have done a lot in identifying corruption and taking action. But the entire system, the food chain is not through. You still have aspects of that fight which still drag their feet in the fight. So it is necessary for everybody in the public sector to commit themselves to fighting corruption. Those in the private sector to commit themselves to fight corruption. Those in the churches should commit themselves to fight. At the family level, we should commit ourselves to fight corruption. Because corruption does not happen where there are no people.
True.
It is the people who commit corruption. And generally, the two who commit corruption are not the same people who would talk about it.
True.
Unless they become dissatisfied, then one squeals. But we need to put a spirit among our people. This is why I always say, let us be hard-working, honest, hard-working people.
True.
Be rewarded, be prosperous on the basis of honesty and hard work.
True.
We believe that if that can be embraced by our people, we will be on the correct track to achieve a society free of this cancer, this cage of corruption.
Corruption, yeah.
Your Excellency, while you're still on corruption, you have shown it by firing those ministers that have shown that they are corrupt or have gone against the ethos of the expectations that you have. But when it comes to local authorities, there seems to be a soft touch from your administration to deal decisively with them. Is there an issue of where your administration feels they don't want to be criticized for attacking on them because they're part of the opposition, or what?
No, corruption is no affiliation. I act because I'm acting with the people in central government under my authority. I think you're aware that government has several tiers of authority. We have the central government and local authorities, whether they be municipal authorities, rural district councils, and so on, and they're governed by different legislation. I cannot just stand up and say, I fire a mayor so-and-so, I fire councillor so-and-so, that they're governed by different. But as they commit crime, the system which fights corruption should deal with them. And for instance, Harare City Council, I think 1/3 of the councillors and the people there are under investigation. Some have been brought to court, and the process is going on. We will fight corruption wherever it is. Doesn't matter one belongs to a opposition party or whatever. Corruption is corruption. And I believe that I would wish to see the other political parties also speaking with the same vigor against corruption as we do.
Indeed. So how best are you dealing with some of the results of corruption, such as shortage of water? Most councils, most urban areas suffer from water shortages. We see maybe people sleeping in the queues overnight or having marshals to get water from them, and water is a critical resource. So that largely, in our view, is a result of that corruption. So what are you doing to ensure that the ordinary man is buffeted or is cushioned against that?
I think we realize that the municipalities have a role. They are set up to deal with service delivery for the community which they lead. It can be rural district council, urban council, like the Harare Council. They have the duty to provide services to the people. But because we have seen that they have failed, this is why under the second law, we have instituted now a task force of an interministerial task force headed by the Vice President to deal, overriding the authority of these councils and so on, so that we can provide our people with the services which these authorities have failed to provide. So as central government, we are intervening, using central government resources to do so. This is now, you realize, the question of housing, question of correcting wetlands, the question of clean water. I think I've seen on TV now where new equipment is being installed. That equipment hasn't been bought by the municipal councils, no, or by the cities. It is the central government which is intervening using our resources at the central government level to make sure we could. Very soon I'll be commissioning 2 dams, the Causeway Dam and so on, which again, in the process, will bring water to Harare.
Okay.
And all that is now being done by central government because our people come first. And in the process also, we are saying to the people, they should bring to account the councillors they elect.
True.
They can't continue electing councillors who do not deliver. When councillors are elected, they're supposed to deliver services to the people whom we elected them and not bring misery.
Welcome back to this segment where we continue our independence conversation with His Excellency, the President, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa. Mr. President, the issue of devolution has been put into action under this particular administration. Where are we? And is it moving towards the direction that you envisage?
Indeed, the concept of devolution under the Second Republic, we view it as a proper instrument that addresses challenges at the community level, at the lowest level of our communities, where the people at that level know what they want best. They know their priorities. So we at central government would not know what the people in Chipinge, in a ward in Chipinge, would want as a priority. The people in Plum Tree, what they would want as a priority. The people in Kanyemba, what they would want as a priority for them. So all these areas, they have different priorities. And this can only be addressed by putting resources at that level. This is what devolution is doing. The first step we did was to allocate 300 million US dollars at the time, and we then put $3 billion. Now we are, I think, I'm not so sure about the figures, we are putting billions and billions of dollars to each province, which then is reallocated to each single district in the province. And in that province, they have wards. Each ward will determine what they want at that level. Some would want a clinic, some would want a deep tank, some would want a footbridge, some would want a classroom, whatever. But these are the basic priorities they want at that level. And some of the roads councils have now been able, with devolution funds, to purchase equipment to maintain the roads at their level, at their community level, which is good. Instead of depending on us at national level to know that there is a bridge that has been washed away, now with the devolution funds, they're able to repair a road, they're able to repair a bridge at that level. But this does not mean central government ceases to have responsibility. We continue to exercise our responsibility, but we give opportunity to local authorities and communities to address the things that affect them most at that level.
Your Excellency, allow me to take you back to the macroeconomy. We've seen exports growing, particularly in the past year, where we earned more than $4 billion. But unfortunately, $4 billion. But unfortunately, we have seen also the list of imports. Unfortunately, we have seen also the list of imports growing. And yet, on the other hand, the production capacity in industry has been rising from a low of 1510 to now above 35. How then do we marry the two, where imports seem rising, exports are trying to grow, but they cannot match the demand for imports? Where are these imports coming from?
What we should understand is that either a country becomes a market by other economic jurisdictions,
Yes.
or you choose yourselves not only to be a market, but to be a productive economic jurisdiction which imposes and goes to the markets of other economic jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. Now, I remember in 2018, when we went to the International Trade Fair, and as we went around, the NAST University, Chinoy University, University of Zimbabwe, MSU, and so on, students there displayed, exhibited various inventions which they did, but it died there. So I then decided, I did two things. Mm-hmm. One, it was necessary to create or craft a policy where we must harness the talent of our boys and girls, number one. Sure. Two, we must discuss with the captains of industry so that we know what they expect the government to do for them to thrive. On the same platform, we must discuss with the captains of industry so they know what the government expects of them to do and what they themselves expect us to do and what they expect them to do. Right. We share that platform.
Yes.
Then we went to the academia, the institutions of higher learning, and said the institutions of higher learning should produce products which produce goods and services. And to do so, I introduced innovation hubs. We first selected 6 universities where government put money to build innovation hubs. But now all state universities have innovation hubs. At these innovation hubs, we get a list of all the imports, the things that we import into the country, over 2,000 items. You list them there and say to our boys and girls, you are talented, you are Zimbabweans. Look at this list. We are importing these things. Can you apply yourselves so that some of these items can be produced?
True.
And it is creating wonders. Currently, universities are competing. Some register up to 70 patents a year.
Wow.
And reducing the number of items or products that we import as a result of this. And after the innovation hub is where you bring your idea into reality. But once that is done, you now need to commercialize your product. So each university now, we have given them ground where they create industrial parks, where we again finance to produce the product at the commercial level. And then once patented, it can go into the market. And it is, I'm enjoying that. Okay. And the country is enjoying that. And the students are so happy with that. Just yesterday, I opened a commissioned the management institute in Masasa, which ought to have been funded by ZimDef. For years, this ZimDef was there, but it did nothing to show. But in 2 years, go and see what you're having there. State-of-the-art institute where students now can exercise their talents with no support from anywhere or domestic resources. You don't know how much our people, Zimbabweans, are talented if you give them the opportunity to excel and, and exercise their talents.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. And as a result, you can now see, because now the private sector tells the public sector and the institution of higher learning what they need, what the products they need from universities. And the universities are restructuring the curriculum to produce products which fit industry.
Mm-hmm. Your Excellency have given us a very impressive list of what government is doing to ensure that production rises. Is private sector doing enough?
Not everybody. This is what I was saying. As we move forward, we don't want to leave anybody behind, nor any place behind. Not everybody can embrace good ideas at the same time. But we will continue to preach. As I'm saying this because I now see the positive response from the private sector. I created what we call the Presidential Advisory Council, where the big guns in industry and commerce come and discuss with me as the president and my colleagues, and discuss what should we do to modernize, to mechanize, to industrialize our economy. We have that responsibility. We have the responsibility to create an economic environment where such things can thrive. And we discuss, and this is what is happening.
Your Excellency, you have said you do not want to leave anybody behind. And I think at a period when we are celebrating our independence, the viewers back home would want to know, in a climate where it is so polarized politically for Zimbabwe, they want to understand. There is one man called Nelson Chamisa who is standing aloof, standing there. What are the preconditions, or what conditions are there for you to create a working relationship with them?
Well, you have mentioned this one Zimbabwean.
Yes.
You forget that him and his vice president went to America to ask for sanctions to continue to be imposed on Zimbabwe. So before they cut that biblical cord with the Americans, it is difficult to be proper Zimbabweans. We have created a platform where every genuine patriotic Zimbabwean can come and participate, and they use their talents and they contribute to the global national vision. It's not a Mnangagwa vision, it's not a ZANU-PF vision, it's a national vision for our people. In a democracy, we debate issues, and the best debate on the day takes the day. That's what we must do. And we'll create the platform so that nobody is left behind. For instance, it does not follow that you should everybody say yes, yes, yes. I wouldn't want yes people around me. I want people who argue with me, and I argue with them. At the end of the day, I know that those who are arguing against it have the interests of the country at heart, and those who argue for, they have also the interests of the country at heart, and the based argument takes the day.
As we grew up, the president, any child, an errant child, would get a bit of a shambok to whip them into line, either physically or through other measures, maybe counseling. What are we doing with this child of ours, Nelson Chamisa?
Well, I still believe that Mr. Chamisa is a young Zimbabwean. He still has that opportunity to positively contribute to his country. If he puts aside the vision for violent demonstrations against his country, being destructive, destroying property, and in the process people die, and if he decides that he shall have constructive debate, constructive opposition in the country, everybody will embrace constructive criticism, constructive debate, constructive contribution to the country. But if you are going to be destructive and they say, I will destroy in order to rise on destruction to power, then that is not viable.
And the defections that have been happening from the MDC, people coming over to ZANU-PF, does it speak to that childish behavior that you speak about?
Well, I think that as you go on, our people, our Zimbabwean people, are very disdainful. Our people, they realize that the future lies with those who preach peace, harmony, and unity, not those who preach demonstrations. There is no country that is built on demonstrations and violence. Countries are built on unity, harmony, peace, and love. This is why what is happening is happening.
Mm-hmm. So talking about more members coming to join ZANU-PF in the elections, are you confident that the party will win and carry the day?
If we have a leader of a political party who goes into an election with the hope of not winning, that person should not be a leader of a party.
How confident are you that you are going to win?
I'm extremely confident based on the work that we are doing and the positive reception which we receive from the public of what we are doing, and the resolution which we are achieving, both in terms of resolving hunger in the country, in terms of providing energy, in terms of providing good roads in the country, in terms of providing fuel, in terms of increasing and modernizing our health sector. I think with all these positive issues, which continues to improve, the people will feel that they must give us a chance to do more.
Mm-hmm. So your Vision 2030, was it prophetic, or was it the confidence that you have that you will still be in power?
It's born out of suffering and the wish to fight the challenges.
Your Excellency, let me take you back to the bilateral dispute between Harare and London, which was sparked obviously by the land reform program. Where are we now as a nation in terms of the compensation for affected farmers? And how is the relationship now? Is there any possibility? We had just recently talk about Zimbabwe rejoining the Commonwealth. Where is the progress now?
Let me assure you that Zimbabwe has never imposed sanctions on Britain or the United Kingdom. It is the United Kingdom that imposed sanctions on us. Their first reason was the land reform. It started 20 years ago. We have told them that the land reform will never change. It's irrevocable. We have corrected the imbalance which they themselves created. So it is them to adjust to reality, not us to adjust their unreality. So it's very clear the ball is in their court. We as Zimbabweans, whether the British want us or not want us, is not an issue. We are happy we are in control of our land. And we say to the British, recognize that we are the masters of our land. Let us have relations which will contribute to good relations between the British people and the Zimbabwean people. It's good when we work together. But if they choose to make us enemies, it is not our choice, it is theirs. And those who have to change are them, not us.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It would also be very unjust for this conversation to end without looking at the security issues that are happening within the region, in particular in Mozambique. You were at a meeting just this week where you sat as heads of state and decided on matters. What is your word, particularly when Zimbabwe is celebrating an independence and there are insurgencies happening in Mozambique?
One, Mozambique is a sister republic to Zimbabwe. What affects Mozambique affects Zimbabwe. Two, Mozambique is a member of SADC. And whatever affects one single member of SADC adversely affects all members of SADC adversely. So when we met first as the Troika, we looked at the events happening in Cabo Delgado, and we came to the conclusion that there was a real need for a robust response to the terrorists in Cabo Delgado by SADC. So it is, we agreed that SADC as a region and as a bloc should assist Mozambique in repulsing the terrorists that have attacked Cabo Delgado and the Palma recently. And then we met as the double troika, where we as troika reported our position. And I'm happy to say the double troika also adopted that position, which I believe when it is going to be submitted to the summit is likely to adopt that position that SADC as a bloc should contribute towards assisting Mozambique to deal with that problem.
Your Excellency, at this stage, allow us to delve into your private life a bit. What is your favorite meal?
Mukaka. Makakora. Yeah. And wonderful.
And your music taste?
Do gospel music.
Do you have any special
As a
gospel
president,
artist?
I cannot indicate which one.
You keep it to your chest.
In case they won't vote for me, but I like them. But the issue is I like gospel music.
We also understand that you are a very avid football supporter. You are associated with FC Platinum by virtue of your origin. But also we saw you at Highlanders getting a jersey. We saw you with Dynamos getting a jersey. Do you have any favorite football team that you have, either locally or internationally?
Earlier on, when I was minister, of course, I'm the godfather of FC Platinum. I was happy with that. But when I became president, it was not easy now to belong to one football club. Now all football clubs are my clubs.
Okay, so President, Your Excellency, what do you do in your spare time, if you've got any such, when you want to sit, relax and unwind? We hear you are such a hard worker, you are at the office ahead of most people. So when you say, I'm now relaxing and unwinding, what will you be doing?
Well, I'm happy that my commitment to work has also persuaded those around me like George Charamba. They now come very early to work.
Wow.
I work 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. Then on Sunday, I go to my farm where I do my farming work. That is my week. It doesn't change.
Wow,
6 days I'm at work here. But on Sunday morning, I leave here at 6:30 in the morning every Sunday. I go to my farm and I work there. Then at 4:30, I leave. I come back.
Okay. So do you as Zukuru have time with Sekuru, play time with Sekuru?
I wish they could. They complain. But it's very difficult.
Understandable.
I hope that time will come down the line when I will have time for my grandchildren.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Maybe just to say, if you could show the country the other personal side of you, how would you want it done? Would you want it by the farm?
I'm not so sure what you have in mind. I think the public knows that I'm their president.
Yes.
And the time really I am doing family work is when I'm at the farm. My family has been a farming family for ages. I was telling my colleagues that I first drove my first tractor in 1959.
Wow.
When my father bought the first tractor. So from that time on, we've just been farming, and I'm addicted to farming.
Mr. President, I want to thank you very much for sparing your time to be with us today here, to have this particular conversation with us. It's quite a privilege that we as women, we had this opportunity to sit down with you and have this particular conversation without us feeling inferior in any way because of the efforts that you have advanced to empower women. Thank you, Your Excellency.
No, thank you very much. I'm fully aware about the rise of women in this country. Some of my colleagues are getting afraid.